Story Sound. Chapter 5. The Warning. The town had begun to notice subtle shifts, though no one could yet put a name to them. Shadows lingered longer than they should. Whispers of the stranger's presence seeped into every corner, and the air seemed charged with anticipation. For the few who dared to follow him, the signs were unmistakable. Something monumental was approaching, and a warning was quietly, invisibly delivered. It started with small incidents. Windows slammed shut on calm days. Doors creaked open by themselves, and animals behaved strangely, uneasy and alert. At first, people dismissed it as coincidence, the natural whim of the world. But slowly, patterns emerged. The baker's dog refused to enter the street where the stranger walked. The blacksmith's apprentice awoke to find strange symbols etched into his workshop door, symbols he did not recognize, but instinctively feared. The stranger himself seemed aware of these subtle changes. He moved through the town with deliberate care, yet he made no effort to hide himself. Instead, he appeared almost as a herald, a silent messenger who carried knowledge too dangerous to voice aloud. His notebook, ever growing in size and complexity, contained warnings written in symbols and notes that few could decipher. But the few who glimpsed them felt the weight of the message, a sense that the world was shifting and that unprepared minds might be overwhelmed by the revelation. Elias, now firmly his student, noticed the stranger's unease. "Is something coming?" he asked one evening as they traced patterns in the notebook by candlelight. The stranger's eyes, dark and intense, met his. "Yes," he said quietly, "something is stirring, something beyond this town, beyond these forests. The knowledge we have discovered carries power, and power attracts attention." Elias's stomach tightened. "From who?" He replied, "From forces that do not sleep, from minds that do not rest, that seek to control what they do not understand. We must be careful, or what we have uncovered could be twisted, corrupted, weaponized." The warning was not just theoretical. Soon other signs emerged. Outsiders began to arrive in the town, seemingly by chance, though their intentions were veiled and calculating. Travelers who asked strange questions, strangers who lingered at the tavern, and merchants who offered rare objects with hidden markings, all seemed drawn to the town by some invisible force. The stranger observed them carefully, noting their movements, their questions, and the patterns in their behavior. One night, Elias followed him into the forest. Moonlight bathed the trees in silver, and the notebook glowed faintly in the stranger's hands. "We are being watched," the stranger said, "not by eyes you can see, but by perception, by intellect, by desire. The knowledge we have hold is fragile. One misstep, one slip, and it could be stolen, misused, or destroyed." Elias shivered. The weight of their responsibility had never felt so real. They were custodians of a secret too vast, too dangerous for ordinary understanding. Yet there was also a sense of inevitability. Discovery had consequences, and the town, once ordinary and forgotten, was now a stage for events that could ripple outward in ways no one could predict. Warnings took different forms. Sometimes it was a strange sensation, a feeling of being observed when no one was near. Other times it was more direct, a whispered word carried on the wind, symbols appearing overnight, etched into doors, walls, and even cobblestones. The stranger's notebook became a central focus, a guide for interpreting these omens. Each symbol, each line, each scribbled note was a piece of a puzzle, an alert to what might come next. The townspeople began to feel it too, though none could articulate the cause. Farmers reported nightmares. Merchants spoke of unease that lingered long after their shops closed, and children whispered of seeing shadows in the streets that had no source. The warning was reaching into every home, every heart, even those who had never glimpsed the stranger or his notebook. The stranger understood this. His obsession with patterns and discovery had evolved into vigilance. He was not merely uncovering the hidden laws of existence, he was guarding them, interpreting subtle signs, and preparing for what was coming. He taught Elias to do the same, to notice the small, the imperceptible, the quiet whispers that carried meaning. One evening, the warning became almost tangible. A storm gathered in the west, black clouds rolling with unnatural speed, and the wind carried a charge that made hair stand on end. The stranger and Elias watched from the forest edge, pages of the notebook spread out before them, tracing lines and symbols that seemed to respond to the approaching storm. "It is near," the stranger said. "The warning we have been sensing, the signal of what is to come, it is arriving." Elias's heart pounded. What will happen? The stranger shook his head. "We cannot know it yet. We can only prepare, observe, and act when the moment requires it. Knowledge is not power until it is wielded wisely." The storm swept through the town that night, winds howling and rain pounding roofs, yet it felt different than ordinary weather. There was a weight to it, an intelligence. People huddled in their homes, unaware that the storm was more than atmospheric. It was a manifestation of the forces converging around the town. The stranger and Elias watched in silence, recording symbols in the notebook that mirrored the storm's energy, as though the patterns themselves were alive. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind subtle changes. Trees bent in new directions, soil shifted slightly, and the townspeople felt a lingering unease they could not explain. The warning had arrived, quietly, invisibly, yet undeniably. The stranger closed the notebook and looked at Elias. "We have seen the first ripple," he said. "The world outside will notice soon, and when it does, those who seek to control what they do not understand will come. Our vigilance must never falter." Elias nodded, understanding fully now the weight of their task. The discovery had led them to obsession, and obsession had brought warning. But warning alone was not enough. They had to act, to interpret, to protect the fragile knowledge they now held. And so the town continued to breathe, unaware of the currents flowing beneath its streets. The stranger remained its silent guardian, Elias its apprentice, and the notebook, the repository of forbidden knowledge, grew ever thicker, more intricate, more powerful. The warning had arrived, and with it came the certainty that the coming days would test every heart, every mind, and every soul in ways they could not yet imagine.